Let's open in 5 minutes and we do that. 4 flat tires coming through.
Hi everyone, I'm sitting on a TRX 450R. My friend Justin in the background graciously gave to me. I am planning to turn this thing fully electric. On today's episode of this first of many, hopefully, we're going to be disassembling the quad, cleaning it up, and making a list of what is needed to bring it back to its glorious days. And I'm also going to be putting a little bit of info at the end for what electric components I'm going to be using to make this thing a gas wrecker. I'll be one of the first guys to say that gas is better than electric. I've grown up riding gas quads and dirt bikes all my life, but I recently built a electric 450 KTM dirt bike that I'll talk about later in the video. It opened my eyes to some of the benefits that electric does have to offer, and it is just a completely different riding experience. So keep an open mind during this build. Got a can that up, I guess. All right.
That's another thing. I don't know what you're going to do with this. I mean, it's got to be here because all your plastic bolts in the tank.
Yeah.
You're probably going to put something here for your controller, man.
Yeah, the voltage meter.
Well, to keep this tank on, there's only 2 bolts up here, but I had to see these metal bars. I had these. That's to get it up high enough to clear the 300EX stuff. Well, the stock, there's a, see this clip? The stock one uses big rubber bands that go from there to here just to hold it down in place, and then it rests right here on the frame. So you're going to need them little rubber band pieces because it's going to go back down to where it originally started.
Okay. Is that a factory rivet?
Yeah. There's supposed to be a rubber cap on there. I just shoved that behind it so it would hold it up.
Okay.
But
All
you
right.
can probably find them or something too.
All right. So, we just made a list of things to get this back to a rolling chassis before we add any of the electrical components. So, seat, first off, this one's pretty wrecked. Handlebars, decimated, they're sideways, and I think the column's bent. If you look down.
Oh, it's bent. That's the handlebars that flipped over at Big Game Raceway.
Really?
Yeah.
There's the angle in the column that I was talking about. That's gonna need some replacement. Steering column then. Justin has a 300EX motor in this 450 chassis, and there's a few other 300EX parts like this TRX 450 rear caliper and disc. He has a 300 on it. We need a 450 caliper and disc. All the brake pads all around. New master cylinder for the rear. This one just goes down too far. It might be good, but we'll just get a new one for peace of mind. The chain's seen better days. I don't think lube. We'll get a new chain. Plastics, obviously. These ones are a little wrecked. Heel guards so I don't suck my feet under the rear tires. I also want to get plastics that cover the fenders, that way I'm not covered in mud after about 10 minutes of riding, like the factory plastics do. Tires, fronts are dry rotted, rears might need some bead sealer. Make a grab bar for the rear. I want to fabricate a big grab bar so that I can pick the quad up if I ever get stuck easily. The frame, Justin did some nice work on the sides here, so we're going to just clean that up a bit. He did it when he was 15, so that's understandable. Possibly get new front wheels. Those ones are a little beat up. And then handlebar risers, just because I have longer legs, so I don't want to hit my knees off the handlebars at any point. And then that should get us to a rolling chassis. Once we're at that point, we'll be able to start mocking up all the electrical, the motor, the controller, and the battery, and start figuring out our mounts for all of that and how we're going to run wires. But we're going to go ahead and tear all the plastics off and get this motor out of here. So the motor's out. We made a list of things that are going to be needed. That's really about it. I'm going to go ahead and bring over the electrical parts that I already have for this build, and we'll kind of do a little talk through on those. So this right here is the electric motor for this build. It's a QS Motors QS 180. Peak power, I think, is right around 75 or 80 kilowatts, which translates to 85 to 95 horsepower, somewhere in there. It is a 3-phase motor, and the controller takes the DC power from the battery, which I have yet to build, or have yet to get, because I had to figure out the dimensions here before I can actually have the company build it. This here is the controller. It's a CL1400 by 3 Scholl Motors. They are the same manufacturer of the controller that I use for my 450 SXF dirt bike that's fully electric. It has a CL1000 in it, so I wanted another 400 phase amps because the quad's a little bit heavier. So the controller Justin and I were talking about actually fit perfectly right in the air filter box. So I think we're likely going to have it mounted right about here. And it'll have its own little fan enclosure to keep it cool. And then the air filter box itself will keep the mud off of the controller. But yeah, that's going to go right there. And the motor we'll have to make mounts for so that it's held in there securely. I don't know if you saw me draw on the board during the last time lapse, but I'm going to get a new set of Nerf bars for this thing because these ones are, I just want the full heel guards, that way my feet don't get sucked down into the tires. But this controller has capability to run headlights, it can do cruise control, it has a lot of functionality to it. So I'll take these headlights right here, wire them in, that way I can ride at night. I'm probably gonna end up going with a twist throttle, just because I already have one. And the nicer electric throttles for these types of controllers get pretty expensive pretty quick. Domino is the controller that, or the throttle that I am gonna be using. The shocks are actually in pretty good shape, so I think we're just gonna run with it for a little bit, and then I might get them rebuilt later on down the road. But yeah, that should be it for this first video. If you're as excited as I am to continue progressing through this build, be sure to subscribe and come back for future videos. I'm hoping to do maybe one video every other week. If this starts to get some traction, then I'll just quit my job full time and do this. And that'll be that.
And whatever you want to do for these ones, or however.
Yeah.
Yeah, these straight up, and the bottom one's straight up.
Yeah. Okay. Sprocket line. This is gonna have to come over no further than that.
It's starting to hit your brake, but not much. You can
Okay.
still make it work.
Yeah,
You
I
you
can
could
bend that.
that a hair.
That'll work.
Because it actually tucks in right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, between this one, between the bottom two mounts, I'm sure you can make it pretty sturdy. It don't really matter what you do the other ones are.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's being super conservative there. Okay.
You probably want to just buy a 450 skid plate.
Yeah, I'll get the skid plate
Because
for
if
it.
you buy a nice one, it'll wrap the whole way up and you won't have any of that shit coming up either.
Yeah.
Probably put that under it.
One other thing I forgot to mention, this quad will have regenerative braking, so there will be a throttle on this side for backfeeding power from the motor. It'll basically be turned into a generator and it'll recharge the battery while I'm riding so that my ride times are a little bit longer. I'm gonna ram as big of a battery in here as possible. It's likely gonna be 120 volt nominally. So once fully charged, it'll be 124 volt. Yeah, that's how it works out. 124 volt, and then fully charged, it should be around 140, 150 volts. And I'm hoping to get around 60 amp hours. I have so much room in here, so I do think it's feasible. I don't think I'll be using cruise control on this, but it has the ability to. And I also have an auxiliary 12 volt supply, which I'll use for my headlight right there. So yeah, it's gonna be an exciting build. Hope you guys stay tuned and we'll see you in the next video.